This video will not touch on the topics of hashtag boycott Mulan, the Chinese government, and the viewpoints of actress Liu Yifei. It is merely an opinion piece on the film itself as it stands alone as a movie.
Oh my god, it's Jet Li!
I should love this movie.
Donnie Yen! Hell yeah!
As an Asian American, I should love this movie, but I don't. There is a lot to love here, don't get me wrong. From its visual style, colors that pop, I mean look at all this flavor! And the fact that they took the time to cast it respectfully alone deserves its own praise. It shouldn't, but this is Hollywood we're talking, so I have to mention it. They casted some of the all-time greats, Donnie Yen, Jet Li, my video game high school homeboy Jimmy Wong, and the goddess herself, Gong Li, from Raise the Red Lantern. They could have just as easily had another Memoirs of a Geisha scenario and casted just about any Asian actors for the roles, but they didn't, and I'm so glad they casted it respectfully. And my god, the Metal Gear Solid man himself, Harry Gregson Williams, killed it on the score. There is a lot to love here. So, why don't I love this movie? Oh my god. It lacks a clear directorial creative voice. When you watch a Wes Anderson movie, you know immediately what it looks like. When you watch a Catherine Bigelow movie, you're going to get a gritty, violent story told through a realistic lens. When you watch a Nicholas Winding Refn film, you'll note his use of neon lights and colors. Dull, lifeless, a lack of creative freedom is a problem with damn near every Disney live-action remake. Like, what is this? This is National Geographic with voice acting. Nikki Caro is absolutely a competent director, and Zookeeper's Wife showed that she does have an eye for directing sentimental period films set during war. And I assumed that's what she was going to bring to the table in Mulan, but she didn't. I see all this architecture, all the wardrobe and faces, but the sum of its parts feels so hollow. I believe remakes deserve to exist if they can stand alone as their own entity, expand on the source material, and provide a new experience or interpretation. So as much as I can, I'll try to refrain from comparing this movie to the original animated movie, even though this movie will go out of its way to remind you of the original animated movie.
I don't care what she looks like.
I agree.
I care what she cooks like.
Haha, get it? Get it? When I heard that the new Mulan wasn't a musical, lacked Mushu, Shan Yu, and Li Shang, I was still on board. It was just looking like another interpretation of the Hua Mulan folklore, but on a more grounded context as a war movie, and I would have been fine with that. I didn't want a shot-for-shot remake like Lion King. There's so much they could have elaborated on to provide more context, from Mulan's devotion to her family to giving us a little more backstory or spotlight to the comic relief characters, but it don't. Without using Google, do you remember the name of Mulan's new love interest in the remake? No, you don't, and neither do I. The movie does jack shit to develop him or the relationship too. My parents watch a lot of Asian soap operas, so naturally I asked them if they remember the name of the love interest, and their response?
No.
The movie should have fleshed out that romance with Mulan and the walking deviant art OC. Okay, if the romance was forgettable, then how was the depiction of war? Well, remember that jaw-dropping scene from the original movie when our heroes pass through the aftermath of a Hun massacre? The singing stops, and we're given a moment to witness the atrocities of war? This was the remake's chance. I thought for sure with how dour and serious the tone has been up to this point, they could really drive home this moment of dread, a feeling of hopelessness, that this fight may be way above them. And what did we get? 40 seconds. 40 seconds of seeing the carnage, a look of fear in our heroes' faces, and they move right along. 40 seconds. I counted. Go ahead, check for yourself. It starts at 54:15 and ends at 54:55. A sight like this is traumatizing, but it just gets fixed in one campfire scene, and Mulan being all like, "We can do this! With the power of teamwork, friendship, we can overcome anything!" Before Mulan single-handedly destroys the opposing army by herself and spreads their cheeks. I don't know. Maybe I expected a little more? I didn't want to kick the PG-13 rating up any higher, but I definitely wanted to know how the supporting characters felt. I would love to know what's going on in their heads. How do they feel about the war? But the closest we got was Cricket hiding his fear in the campfire scene. We aren't given enough scenes with the comic relief characters to begin with. And speaking of comic relief, if you were hoping for moments of brevity from Ling, Yao, or Po, you might notice I keep repeating this scene where they're literally just having lunch. That's because this is their only scene where they're being funny and dicking around. This is literally their only bonding scene and moment of comedy in the whole movie. Oh hey, the movie even gave Mulan a sister as DLC. But what's her point for being here if they don't develop this bond on screen? She has no personality, and it looks like she's just here to...
I am matched. He's handsome, a little shy.
Oh. Wow, movie. I see you. You ain't slick. Hey kids, you can be whatever you want if you're just born awesome like Mulan. But if you're a normie, just be complacent and stick to societal gender roles. And before anyone says it in the comments, even though this movie was written by and directed by white people, I was still begrudgingly on board prior to release. Begrudgingly being the operative word in this sentence. But now that it's here, the proof is in the pudding. I was hesitant to touch on this topic because a bunch of other YouTubers don't seem to have a problem with white people writing a Chinese folklore adaptation. Okay, fine, sure, the race of the directors and writers should not have mattered, but I feel in this scenario it did. If it was announced tomorrow that Aaron Sorkin was going to write and direct a movie adaptation of Code Geass, that sounds dope. Can't wait. Let's fund that shit now. But if you told me he was also going to write and direct an adaptation of the Japanese folklore Momotaro, yeah, no, that's a bad call, because Momotaro is inherently bound to a nation's culture. I'd rather have someone who's had a personal, lived experience of that culture who doesn't need to do research. How baller would this movie have been if this was directed by either the romance of Wong Kar-wai, the epicness of Zhang Yimou, or even the side-splitting comedy of Stephen Chow? We would have, and should have, gotten a unique experience that spoke from the heart, from a masterful Chinese director with a clear voice. Jeffersaurus, Mulan already has great representation on a performance and scenic level.
Yeah, you Asians can never be satisfied and just want to whine about everything.
No, I'm not saying every single person in the production side should have been Asian or Chinese. Again, Harry Gregson Williams killed it on the music. But I am saying the people who were the creative driving forces should have been. We had 4 writers on the screenplay. 4. That's an anime harem. And not one of them was Chinese? That's like making a John Henry movie but written by 4 Judd Apatows. It broke my heart when I found out Ang Lee refused to direct, for valid reasons of course. Ang Lee was my first choice to direct this movie. After him, it would have been either Zhang Yimou, Wong Kar-wai, or Stephen Chow, and if they were all too busy or too cool to direct Mulan, do you know another Asian director who could have killed it? I'll give you 2, Lulu Wang and Cathy Yan. But I'm not going to sit here and pitch to you missed opportunities or what could have been. The point is, there were other choices. The argument that maybe they couldn't find the right person for the job, it's all about experience and talent, not race, so they settled for Nikki Caro, is moot and ridiculous. There's talented people across the globe. I know it's not possible to check every box, but it's possible to check most of the boxes, especially when you're a monopolizing powerhouse like Disney. This video is not meant to demonize the movie, its actors, or the current state of Disney and their push for making remakes. I'm a glass half full kind of guy. I like looking at the positives in things. Am I glad Mulan wasn't whitewashed and we had a stellar Chinese cast and breathtaking visuals? Yeah, of course I am. But those are all things that should have been a given on day one. Disney is capable of this. They treated Black Panther with the respect it deserved across the board right out the gate. This movie was dealt a bad hand upon production, and that's a topic other YouTubers and articles have already covered. I have friends who won't watch it because of the price tag, the boycott, or because they cherish the original that much. For the 5 steps Crazy Rich Asians brought for positive Asian representation in cinema, Mulan took us 1 step back. In the end, Mulan plays out like a movie heavily influenced by Chinese culture when it should have been crafted with a labor of love by a blacksmith imbued with the beating heart of that culture. What we got was safe, unimaginative, and bland. When it should have been loyal. brave, and true. You see what I did there? I referenced the movie. I'm as swift as a coursing river with the force of a great I give Mulan 3 dinos out of 5, and that's being generous.
It's okay.
It's alright, it's worth a watch for the visuals.
この番組はジェファーソーリスレックスコスプレイとご覧のスポンサーの提供でお送りしました。